Because most people think that when they hear the word non-duality, that everybody's talking about the same thing. Because in duality, there could be so many different types of dualities. But in non-duality, it must be all the same. But in fact, that's not the case. There are many flavors and varieties of even non-duality. I'll just give you a couple of examples. I don't know how much you're familiar with Indian philosophy, but there's an ancient Indian philosophy that's called Shiva Shakti. Some of you may have heard of it. It's called the non-dual philosophy. And what it says is that Shiva is consciousness, and Shakti is the power of consciousness, and they're inseparable. They're non-dual. They're Shiva, they're Shakti, but they're not separate, like one hand, Shiva, Shakti. So that's a type of non-duality. Yes, that's called Shaivism. There's another type which is quite similar, which is called Kashmiri Shaivism. I'll just give some examples, which says that everything is pure consciousness, and that consciousness does the dance of the universe, so that the universe is just the play of consciousness. So the universe and the consciousness, again, are not separate. Non-duality. There was a 15th century philosopher in India by the name of Vallabhacharya, and he came up with, his philosophy was called pure non-dualism. And what he said was that there's a supreme being, and that supreme being got bored or something, and so for the fun of it, he created the world. And then after creating the world, he entered into it, pervading every atom and every fiber of it, so that that supreme being and this world are non-dual. It's another type of non-duality. It's a creator, it's a creation. The creator entered into his creation, and that's called non-dualism. The type of non-duality that I'm talking about is different from all of this business. It's an ancient Indian philosophy, in fact, the most ancient of all Indian philosophies, and it comes from a bunch of texts that are called the Upanishads. Has everybody heard of the Upanishads? These are the most ancient of all Indian philosophical texts. Nothing predates this. There's nothing older than this. This predates it's probably the oldest philosophical text in the world. They generally, most scholars put the Upanishads at about 600 to 800 BC. That means 200 to 300 years before Gautama Buddha was born, there were some people running around in India teaching this Upanishad non-duality. So let me see if, first of all, I can give you kind of an idea of what that idea is. In Sanskrit, in those Upanishads, there are some famous statements. One is, Sarvam Idam Brahmam. All this, that means everything that you see, this whole universe, Sarvam Idam Brahmam, is Brahman alone. Brahman is the Sanskrit word which means the absolute reality. All of this multiplicity is that absolute reality. And then they describe the absolute reality as follows. Ekam Advitiyam, which means one without a second. There's no other reality here. There's just one reality. There's no Shiva and Shakti. There's no play of consciousness. There's no God that created the world and entered into it. None of that. So that's a type of non-duality that is different, you can see, than the other types of non-duality. I'll give you just two more examples. In the Buddhist tradition, there are also non-dualist traditions. And for example, for those who may have studied some Buddhism, you may have heard form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. That means that they're non-dual. Form is not different from emptiness. And emptiness is not different from form. They're non-dual. That's a type of non-duality. But it doesn't deny that there is form. It's just that that form is empty. Empty means empty of any inherent nature. So it's empty, but it doesn't mean that there's no form. It's just that that form, its very nature is to be empty. It doesn't have any true nature. So that emptiness is not something separate from form. If you take form away, there's no emptiness. They're inseparable. That's another type of non-duality. But the type of non-duality that I'm talking about tonight is different than that. There's no form. There's no power. There's no anything. There's no world. There's no duality at all in any sense. So having said that, immediately people should say this is the most ridiculous of all the philosophies that have ever came, because it's so obviously against our common everyday experience. It contradicts the most fundamental fact that I know, that I'm experiencing a world of duality. So to say that there never was a world, there's no world now, I'm not talking, you're not hearing me, what kind of business is this? So the first thing is, the type of non-duality that I'm talking about is the most suspect. There's another unique thing about this non-dual reality. Oh, let me just say something about that non-dual reality. That's the only reality, and there's nothing other than it. Generally in Sanskrit, they describe that reality as Sat Chit Ananda. Existence, consciousness, bliss. But those words, existence, consciousness, bliss, has to be understood in a very technical sense, because this thing exists, but where does it exist? It exists on the table, so it exists in space. And when does it exist? It exists in time. It's now existing. There was a time when it didn't. So it's existence in time and space. Whenever we think of anything existing, we always have to think of it existing in time and space. But this Sat, the existence of Brahman, is not in time and space. Obviously, it's pretty hard to conceive of something that exists, but it's not in time or space. But that's what Sat existence means. It's consciousness, but it's not consciousness like when I say I'm conscious of that wall, or I'm conscious of my thoughts, or I'm conscious of my feelings. It's consciousness bereft of any object. In other words, if you could just in your mind say, you're conscious of a flower. I'm conscious of the flower. Now if somehow you could take the flower away, consciousness bereft of all objects is called Chit. And then Ananda is bliss. Bliss doesn't mean the happiness we get when we eat a good ice cream or when we come in contact with pleasurable things. Because all of those happinesses are caused by something. But this is bliss not caused by anything. Existence beyond time and space, consciousness bereft of all objects, and bliss not caused by anything. That's Brahman. By the way, this philosophy is not a dead philosophy. It's alive and well. There are people who study it, teach it, believe in it. You can go to India and find places where they teach this thing. So, from 8th century BC till today, it's a living tradition of this type of non-duality. And the third unique thing about it that makes it relevant for us, and this is the most unbelievable part of the whole business, is that infinite, immortal bliss, which is the only reality, is who you are. You are that. That non-dual, infinite, unchanging, beyond time and space bliss. That's who you are. You're not going to become that when you drop dead, when you go to heaven, when you raise your kundalini or whatever you got. That is your eternal nature. Everyone, you may have heard the famous saying, you are that, right? Nisargadatta said, I am that. So the Upanishad says, Tattvamasi, you are that. It doesn't say you'll become that after you meditate for 40 years. It doesn't say you'll merge into that if you do this, this, or this. It's a statement of fact. You are that. Right here, right now. You don't have to go to heaven. You don't have to change your clothes or put on a new, change your name, repeat a mantra, whatever. Because you are that here and now. Whether you know it or not, it doesn't matter. You're that. So that's quite a unique thing that's also quite unbelievable. Because I'm this. What do you mean I'm that? I'm this. I was born, I'm getting old, I got problems, my boyfriend, my job, I'm this, and this is mine, this is my house, my country, I know who I am. I'm definitely not whatever you're talking about. So the whole thing seems quite silly. So in order to appreciate, how could it be possible that there's just one reality, and that reality is me? I am infinite bliss. I'm not in time, so I was never born. I'm never going to die. How could I believe that? Is this religion? Is it a faith? Some old book said it, or some guy with a long beard said it? Is that why I should believe this? Or some yogi who was meditating on his belly button for 40 years said it? Here's the real unique point about this. That Brahman, that absolute reality, which is not in time, which is consciousness bereft of object, which is infinite bliss, is the witness of every one of your thoughts right here and right now. the witness of your thoughts right here and right now, including the thought, I am Ira. I am a world-renowned Advaita. Whatever our idea about ourselves, this ego is who we think we really are. When anybody asks you, who are you? I am so-and-so. I have these parents. I was brought up here. I live here. And this is what I do for a living. I have children. I don't have children. This is me. I am this. And this is mine. My money. My house. My car. My wife. My children. I am this and this is mine. These ideas, I am this and this is mine, are objects to you. They appear to you just like any other thought. Every thought is an object to you. That witnessing consciousness that's in you, that's witnessing every thought right here, right now, that's never hidden, that never goes away. Suppose you say, I don't believe in it. This is bullshit. Oh, that's interesting. Whatever thought, it has to be an object to a subject. You're the subject of every thought. In Sanskrit it's called Priti Bodha Viditam Matam. It's known with every thought, because no thought can appear unless it appears in that witnessing consciousness. No thought can be an object unless that subject is there. But what happens when the object goes? Suppose in between two thoughts, or if the thoughts stop, what happens to that witness in you? If the thoughts are there, you're the witness of it. If the thoughts are not there, you're the witness of the absence. There was nothing appearing. How do you know there were no thoughts? Because I'm the witness. Now let me take this a little further. Not only am I the witness of all of these thoughts, but I'm the witness of time. Here's one very important fact about the subject and the object. If I'm the subject and the thoughts are the object, whatever the object is, it doesn't affect the subject in any way. I am thin. The subject's not thin. I am fat. The subject's not fat. I am happy. The subject's not happy. I am sad. The subject's not sad. Time. Does time appear? Is it an object to you? Then the subject is not in time. There's some times when time is appearing, yes? Is there any times when time is not appearing?
Yes.
How do you know? Because it's my experience. I wasn't aware of time at all. When? Well, I was in deep sleep. I didn't even know about time. That witnessing consciousness in everyone is exactly the same. It never changes. It's never hidden. When you're awake, it's here. But the best way to see this witnessing consciousness, to validate for yourself that it's not hooked up to this body, because I think I am this, and this body is the conscious, this is a conscious body. If you cut it, it feels it. And my senses are conscious because I can see through my senses, so my senses are conscious. And my mind, of course, is conscious. But the fact of the matter is, the body is an object to me. My senses are an object to me, and my thoughts and my mind are an object to me. They have no consciousness at all. But that's another subject. The way to see this the most clear in your own experience is to just reflect on your experience of dream. If for just a moment you can shake off this identification, and that's exactly what happens. As soon as the dream appears, now I'm in the jungle and I'm worried about that tiger over there, and I'm thinking that if I talk to my friend, now it's a whole different time, a whole different space. I'm there in the dream. I'm talking to my friend about the tiger. But the whole dream, I'm witnessing, yes? I'm the witness of the dream. Nobody else. Just one witness for the whole dream. And in that witness, me, the dream subject, the dream world was an object, all of the time and the space and the causality, the whole thing is appearing to me. If the guy in the dream gets cut, am I cut? Because as soon as I wake up, I say, it's only a dream. It didn't affect me. But now I'm stuck here. So the real question is, just like I was the witness of my dream state, am I the witness of my waking state? It's easier to see it the other way. When I wake up and my waking state appears to me, does anybody here think that their dream world is still existing somewhere? When I woke up, that tiger that I saw in the dream, is he still sitting there waiting to get me? There was no tiger there. It was just a dream. There was no real tiger there, right? It appeared like it at the time, for the time being. But as soon as I woke up, I realized there was no really tiger there. Yes? So it's not that when the dream ends, the dream world is sitting there. Has anyone seen their dream world when they're not dreaming? You can maybe remember it, but you're not going to see it, because as soon as you wake up, the dream ended, the dream world ended. But here's the difference with our waking state. When my waking state ends, I believe that my waking world continues, even though no one has experienced their waking world independent of their waking state. The waking world appears concomitant with my waking state. As soon as the waking comes, the dream is canceled totally. As soon as my dream state comes, my waking is canceled totally. Because the waking ego appears to me and the dream ego appears to me. They both cancel each other. I'm the witness of both of them, unaffected by any of them. Anyone follow me? Let me show you one other thing. Is there something common that's in all the states? That's not coming and going? That's not getting canceled?
Our awareness.
That awareness, that witnessing consciousness. This brings about some very interesting conclusions. One is, I'm not this ego. I'm not this body, and I'm not this mind and senses, because they appeared to me in the waking body, mind, ego. When I go like this, me, to me, I don't mean this, I mean that witnessing to me. That's the me that never changes. That's not coming and going. It's present during the waking. It's present during the dream. And it's still there in deep sleep. That's how I know nothing was appearing, because I'm still there. The witness of the absence of the objects. What happens now? Now I can see that thing the Upanishads was talking about, that there's only one reality without a second. I'm the only reality here. The waking was as false as the dream. And in deep sleep, I'm still there. So I'm the only thing that's unchanging. I'm not in time. I'm not in space. I am immortal bliss. That bliss is called the non-dual reality. There's nothing other than that. Because a dream is something that appears to exist, but in truth has no existence. The only truth of that whole dream was me. It was me that appeared like the dream tiger, the dream people, the dream IRA. It's me that appears as this waking, and it's me that remains whether the appearance is there or not. That's why this teaching is not religion. This is not religion. So the only ignorance and the only reason we suffer is because I've mixed up myself, who I really am, with who I'm not. This is called ignorance. It's a mistake. It's just a clear, out-and-out mistake based on your own experience. We've all are in the grips of this ignorance of taking myself to be what I'm not, the not self. Once I've taken myself to be this, and I exist from the tip of those toes right up to here, this is me. So this is me. Now here's a problem. Once this is me, you know what has to happen? I have to get old and sick and die. That's the nature of this thing. There's no, if I'm this, finito. But from the point of view of your own experience, you were never born. You will never get sick. You don't get old. You are nothing but infinite bliss. You have no desire for anything. You have no fear of anything. There's no second thing to you to be afraid of. But in my ignorance, I am this. This identification with the body is death. And once I'm this, then I'm seeking happiness and I'm trying to avoid death, even though I know it's coming. And even though I know no matter how much happiness I get, it's going to be fleeting. That Haagen-Dazs, when it touches the tongue, great. But soon, if I keep eating it, that same Haagen-Dazs that was making me happy, you know what? Why is it, if that thing was the source of my happiness, now why is it causing me so much discomfort now? It can't be the Haagen-Dazs. It has to be that the desire, when we finally get the thing that we want, the mind for a second becomes quiet. And in that quiet mind, the bliss of the self is reflected. We attribute it to the object. The identification with this body is so thick. We are so this, that for somebody to say you're not that body is almost meaningless. So how is it that we can come to realize this, if you haven't already realized it? That inner witness is the most in. Does anybody, you can understand that? It's the most in because everything is an object. When I say in, I don't mean spatially in. It's the most inner, the very core of the whole thing is that witnessing consciousness. It's the most in, it's the most subtle, because it has no form, no shape, no color, it's subtler than space. The mind is extrovert. When the mind is like this, that witness is 1 billion years away. There's no witness when the mind is out. But if this mind, even for a little while, you can restrain it and bring that mind back to the subject who's seeing all the thoughts. So the mind has to be made introvert. It has to be made subtle. It has to be made pure. So as long as the mind is on the world, that monkey mind is in full play. What did he say? Oh, he said this, I'm jealous of that. This is how the mind is when it's out. When the mind turns back to that witness which never changes, that's all that's meant by a pure mind. When the mind is focused on that inner consciousness, it's always there. It's never hidden. It's only because the mind is out we don't take note of it. But even when the mind's out, it's shining. It's lighting up every thought of the extrovert mind. But we never take note of it. So the whole spiritual journey, not the religious journey, the whole spiritual journey is to take the mind and make it introvert so that we can recognize this truth about ourselves. When you realize, I am that, I've always been that, I will always be that, that's the only reality. There's nothing else here but me. I am the taste in grapes. I am the wetness in water. I am the lover who compares his beloved to the full moon. I am everything. That will put an end to the idea that I am a mortal that was born, getting old, getting sick, and is going to die. It's a question of what is the correct answer. It's not to be believed. It's not a religious belief. It's to see the fact of the matter, here and now. So how do we go about this? The practical approach to this. How do I realize that I am that, and that realization will put an end to the whole life of suffering? As soon as I realize this truth in my own experience. So how can I realize this? Well, this natural tendency of the mind to be extrovert, because we're convinced that the happiness is out there. If I have a nicer house, a nicer car, or if people say I'm great, or if I get more power, or whatever, then I'll be happy. All of these things are fleeting. This life is fleeting. We have a precious opportunity to realize this fact about ourselves, and if you want to just fritter it away, trying to get the little crumbs of happiness, these impermanent little things in between bouts of unhappiness, then that's called samsara. But for the people that are fed up with that business, and they think, maybe there's a way I could be happy forever. Well, the way is not that way. The way is this way. We have to understand that the objects can never bring me lasting happiness. That whatever comes in time must go in time. To some extent, we have to get a little bit of detachment to the things that everybody else is so feverishly running after. That extrovert mind is the whole problem. So let me get a little more practical here. Remember I told you everybody here, including myself, is in full ignorance. And what that means is I'm identified with this body. This is who I am. Because I'm identified with this body, I can say I'm sitting in this chair now, and when I'm finished, I'm going to get up and go over there, because I'm fully identified with this body, just like everybody is. Because I'm identified with this body like everyone is, I can't stop doing actions for 1 second. Even if I say I'm going to go to the Himalayas, I'll sit in the cave and I won't do anything. Will you breathe? Yeah, I'll breathe. What the hell? How about the bathroom? You're going to get up to go to... Yeah, I got to go to the bathroom once in a while. Are you going to be thinking? Yeah, think a little bit. So you'll be in full action. As long as you have a body and a mind, you can't stop doing actions for a second. So here's the trick. The witness, does that do any actions?
No.
So in my real nature, I'm actionless. I never do anything. But in my ignorance, I'm a doer. Yes? Mm-hmm. So I'm a doer. And I'm doing things to get the result of that thing. My mind is on the result. I'm going to do it, get the result. If somehow, since we can't just stop doing actions, as long as I'm this body, I must act. If I could do my actions in such a way that somehow the action gets yoked to that supreme being, because you see, when I'm an actor, I'm a little nothing, because I'm this little body. Compared to this, that witness is what? It's myself. But when I'm this, that's like God. If I can somehow get into the attitude that I'm doing it not for the fruit, but I want to do it as an acknowledgement that everything that I do is only because of the grace of that light. Without that, I couldn't do anything. When we lose our interest in the fruit of the action, and now the action is tied up to that supreme being, that light that's inside of me, that Paramatma, the supreme self, that's my true nature. Now, that very action, rather than taking me away from that, is taking me towards that. You see, when I'm doing the thing to get the fruit, there's three possibilities. I might get the result. What happens if I get the result that I wanted? I'm happy. What happens if I don't get the result? Sad. It's inevitable. Right? So we're constantly in this thing of, but now if we've lost interest in the fruit's going to come. It'll come. But I've lost my interest in it because now I'm doing it as worship to that. That will purify the mind. That will make the mind more subtle. That pure, subtle mind is the only mind where you can finally cut the karma itself and say, even though this body is doing all these actions, I do nothing. In the Gita it says, Guna guneshu anavartante, na kimchit karomi. The gunas are moving against the gunas. Gunas just means nature. So this is nature. This body, we separate as though this is nothing but matter. And this is nothing but matter, yes? So this matter is moving against this matter. Guna guneshu, na kimchit karomi. But I don't do anything because I'm the witness. It's the witness of all of the activities that's ever the same. I'm not in time. I can't change. This is what I mean by spirituality without religion. That if anybody kind of got a little inkling of what I'm trying to point out here in their own experience, then that's all that it is. It has nothing to do with believing what I said. The witness in me and the witness in you, there's no difference. And even if your mind is filled with nasty thoughts and my mind is filled with angels, the witness is the same. It's the same in everyone, sinner and saint. Doesn't matter. It's that same. So everybody can recognize this truth if they have the motivation to see, is it really true? Because this should not be believed because anyone says it. Is there a witness of my thoughts that never changes? Is there a witness of the states of waking and dream that never changes? Is that a fact of my experience? My present experience, not a mystical experience, not some kind of special experience that only some people have. This is everyone's universal common experience that everybody, if they have the slightest bit of capacity to introvert their mind, they can recognize this fact. When I said that you're the witness of all of these thoughts, or the waking state and the dream state, that doesn't sound like non-duality. There's a witness, and there's something witnessed. What kind of non-duality is that? Here's the point. You're the witness that never changes. And whatever's appearing or disappearing, the witnessed has no reality at all. For three reasons. One is, that which didn't exist in the beginning and which doesn't exist in the end can't exist in the middle. Because from non-existence, existence can't come. And if it really existed, it couldn't become non-existent again. But the object, there was a time it wasn't appearing, and there's a time when it ceases to appear. It's changing. It can't be real. That which changes can't be real. And that which is real never changes. If you examine your experience, then you'll see there's only one reality that never changes. What's appearing has no reality. It never existed in the past. It didn't exist when it was appearing, and it didn't exist after it ceased. The truth of the appearance is the consciousness. When it appears, the object, it can't appear independently. Take the witness away, what happens to the object? Without the subject, no object. Take the object away, what happens?
The subject is there.
Subject is still there. That's how you know the object is gone. So there's only one reality. That's all that ever was, is, or will be, is you. All of this is you. You are everyone. You are the Buddha. You are Jesus Christ. You are that. When it says you have to remember, you means the witness of your thoughts. The witness of my thoughts is because with every thought it has to be there. So I don't have to do any stand on my head. I don't have to join the whatever. Because with every thought, it's available. Object and subject. And to see that the objects are coming and going, but there's an unchanging transcendental subject that's not in time. That's pure bliss. One more point, which is this, because it's so beautiful. Everybody tonight, when you go to sleep, you are just remaining as that infinite bliss. Sleep is God. Sleep is reality. How I was in deep sleep with no second thing, no fear, no desires, no hopes, no limitations, no seeking for anything. In that state, total peace. No boredom. Oh, sleep is boring. I'm sorry. Boring is when you're sitting around and the clock is moving and there's nothing to do. Nobody's bored in deep sleep. When you wake up, you may say that's a boring sleep. But in deep sleep, there's no time. How we were in deep sleep, one without a second. That's how we are right now. Because our nature never changes. Whether the waking state appeared, I didn't become anything other than what I was. When the dream appeared, I'm still deep sleep. And when they both disappear, I'm still deep sleep. You only call it deep sleep from the waking point of view. Is there any world?
No.
Is there the absence of the world? There's no world and there's no absence of the world. Oh, the world disappeared in deep sleep. You say that when you're awake.
Exactly.
It's just you. And it's just you now. One reality without a second.
I think today you used the witness in very effective way to understand it, but actually, you know, in the past, you have said at a certain point the witness disappears.
You see, the self is called the witness only in relation to the witnessed. Let me tell you what I mean. In Sanskrit, the word is called Maya. For those who don't know much about Sanskrit, Maya is made up of two syllables, Ma and Ya. Ma means not, and Ya means that which is. That which is not is called Maya. Even though it appears to exist, in truth it never was, right? For example, if I were to see in the desert a mirage, right? So I see the water. But as I get closer, I realize, oh, it was just the sun, there's no water there. That water never was there. Even though it appeared like it was there, there's no water there. That's called Maya. It's just an appearance, but it has no truth to it at all. So this world, in relation to the world, the self is called the witness. But when we realize the world is Maya, it has no reality, then there's just the witness, and when there's just the witness, it's not a witness. It's just pure consciousness. He's the witness when something appears. He's not the witness when nothing appears. Suppose there's a snake in a hole. This is the sun. The snake comes out and you go, oh, the sun lit up the snake. Then you went back in, oh, the sun's not lighting up the snake. But the sun didn't change one drop. It's only in relation to this. We're saying, oh, he's doing it, he's lighting it up, he's not lighting it up. We're witnessing, we're not witnessing as though it was some action that we're doing. We're lighting up the dream. But the dream is an appearance that has no existence. The only truth of the dream is you. So it's not even a witness. It's only a relative term. Good point.